The Phantasmagorium show presents Guns, Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns. James Bond has retired. His codename and OO status have been assigned to sex-crazed matinee idols. After M is killed, Sir James Bond heads up MI5, and through an incredibly convoluted plan to uncover a series of spy killings orchestrated by Smersh, things
what the
happen.
story's about?
Yeah. I've told you before, I don't like to editorialize in the intro. David Niven leads an ensemble cast featuring Peter Sellers, Ursula Andress, and Barbara Boucher in what can most be accurately called 2 hours and 11 minutes long. Of course, tonight we are discussing the 1967 film Casino Royale. My name is Scotty. My opposite number, Catherine, is here, and Steve is playing the bagpipes. How are you, Kat?
Oh, better.
Well, that's good. How's the wheel?
All right.
That's good. So not much going on. Oscars haven't gone out. Oh, did I hear that Lashana Lynch got herself a BAFTA nomination?
They had like a voting process to vote on her or whoever for the Rising Stars or whatever, and No Time to Die. That they also put out an ad to say, "Oh, vote for this for the popular film category thing for the Oscars." And I didn't do either because I didn't want to give them all my information. But right. I think Lashana got in for her nomination.
Oh, fantastic! And was that she's probably a busy actress doing other things. Is it for No Time to Die?
Yes.
Good. So that pretty much wraps up the news. Now, it's been a month. Like, actually, last time we did a Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns, it was February 9th. And so we're hoping to polish off the last 3 Bond flicks, this being the triumvirate of Casino Royale.
This one.
Yeah.
Then we have the other Casino Royale from 1954.
Okay.
And then we have Never Say Never Again.
And
in whatever order we end up doing those in.
Right, and it's up to you on how you want to end off.
Yeah.
We could leave it to the chat. If someone in the comments, if you want to comment below and have any preference as to whether you want us to watch Never Say Never Again next, or the 1954 CBS live production with Barry Nelson. Those are the 2 that are left. And then from there, the sky is the limit. We can do whatever we want, really. But these 3 films specifically are not part of the Eon umbrella. They are not produced. The Broccolis did not touch these things with a 10-foot pole, and I'm pretty sure they probably did some litigation to stop them. But I don't know. Well, they obviously were not successful. I know Never Say Never Again is an answer to litigation, so.
Yeah, there was no litigation involved with this film because it was already owned by another studio, and there was no debate about it because the other studio owned the rights at the time. But with Never Say Never Again, there was litigation because it was remaking an Eon film.
And that would have been the occurrence for Daniel Craig's. Litigation to get the rights back. That's why Casino Royale took so long to be under the Eon umbrella. It took so long to get those rights back.
There wasn't litigation over it because the fact that this other studio that Sony had the rights was legal. That's just where it went because Ian had first sold those rights to CBS, which eventually for the 1954 special, which eventually sold off to Sony, and Ian approved both of those things, and so Sony had just held on to it for decades, and so in the 90s, MGM traded away all their rights to Spider-Man and Spider-Man related characters to Sony in exchange for Casino Royale to get those rights back in the late 90s or so, because at that time, comic book properties weren't a big thing, so they didn't think it was that bad, but it didn't end up mattering anyway because MGM and Sony even had a merger briefly in the mid-2000s, but so they didn't get into any legal wrangling over the Casino Royale stuff. But for Never Say Never Again, there was, because that was like a blatant attempt at remaking a Neon movie. And they were trying to say, hey, you shouldn't have the right to do this, but they lost the litigation. But they did win the litigation around the late 90s when Kevin McClory wanted to remake Never Say Never again.
Again?
As Warhead 2000.
Wow. It is so convoluted when you get outside of the walled garden that is the Broccoli family. And Eon Productions and Dan Jack and all of that. Why would... That's pretty funny. Canadian Spider-Man in the chat says, ahoy, Canadian Spider-Man. Why would anyone sell anything Spider-Man?
Well, because, again, with the two Schumacher Batman movies having killed that franchise, and with there being really no other comic book movies at the time, it's like nobody really thought that anything was going to be made of that at the time. And so they're like, hey, you want to trade for this and a couple other things? Like, sure. And then along came Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and it's like, oh, wow. Pretty crazy.
Oh, no, exactly.
I admit I was shocked when I read that, too. I'm like, what?
Yeah, but also, don't forget, it's sort of the movie that launched 1,000 ships, like 5 successful films, several Oscars, the entire Daniel Craig era, a new direction after, admittedly, 20 lovely movies, varying levels of pleasure, but also quality. And so, adding on to be able to do that reboot in a time of reboots, it wasn't the first.
No, but I would say that the two movies which largely have the most credit for inspiring the Daniel Craig Casino Royale reboot would be Batman Begins and The Bourne Identity.
Yeah. That makes total sense for the climate of that film, yeah. When it came out as the blockbuster, because as we've discussed before, James Bond movies are action blockbusters, and so there was a bar to meet. And then usually, as it goes, as we've seen through many of the actors and their runs, it starts off as a James Bond movie action blockbuster, and then it turns into a James Bond movie by their final bow. But luckily, this is the first, last, and only presentation of David Niven as James Bond 007. Or, sorry, 007. There are certain things that they couldn't say.
Now, I wouldn't say... I mean, I would say thankfully in terms of the quality of this movie, but I actually think David Niven would have made a great James Bond. Like in a legit Eon movie. He was Ian Fleming's first choice.
I know, and I like David Niven, but have you seen the Pink Panther? Like, he's always sort of foppish.
Well, that was a comedy, so that was kind of the idea.
Well, I suppose I've only ever seen him in comedies, except for Force 10, or not Force 10, Guns and Navarone. Anyway,
I've seen him in a few other films besides the comedies, but you know,
I'm just trying to think. It would be when he's playing like a British officer or something like that.
Right, because in this film, he was a little off as well because he was trying to be, the retired kind of sheepish Bond who's not really sure what's going on and doesn't really find his footing until later in the film.
Did you get? Well, he was sort of figuring it out. I wouldn't call him sort of. I think he had command of the situation the entire time. We'll get to it as we get to it, but he had sort of the first thing after they blow up M, they say James Bond is back. The original James Bond is back, and so he's taken vows. We must break his resolve, and it's kind of like they want to make James Bond into the sort of sexy matinee idol that was prevalent in the Connery years at the time. And the movie itself is sort of a response to that, being like, no, we're going to give you the parody that is truer to the original, which isn't true in the first place. The tone of the film is all out of whack.
Well, I mean, even the fact that they have the bit in the movie where they're saying that, Bond is, all these other agents are being taken down because they're, sex maniacs. They're already picking up on the parody and the tropes of the films to be already making fun of that as early as 5 years into it.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, it's crazy. But the interesting things, as they arrive, like when they pop up, and it's sort of like, oh no, that is a James Bond trope. Oh yeah, no, I get that. That's funny. For that, there's like 1,000. You have to be British to get this joke. Did you get that sense? That it was
A
very
little
sort of,
bit, yeah.
I like, there were some things that I knew I was supposed to recognize the upturned eyebrow and the smirk towards the camera, but a lot of it was just like, ugh. I don't like, I don't know about British comedies from the late 60s. I can't think of a whole big bunch of them, and I know that there are people who love those movies, but do you have any favorite of those British comedies that this one was trying to live up to and failed as? Like, I'm thinking like a Carry
Well,
On movie.
I'm not sure if it was trying to live up to any comedy in particular, but
Well,
certain
it was,
ones like those Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines. That was a funny movie. I'm trying to think of some others because I'm not that familiar with British comedies in the '60s.
yeah,
I mean, I'm familiar with a lot of American '60s comedies, but
yeah.
you're right.
Well,
You can tell there was that bit of British, keep the British end up type thing in
yeah,
this
there's
film.
the loud, boorish depiction of every single American except for William Holden. Oh, by the way, William Holden is in this movie.
I didn't notice.
Really? Oh, he sticks up like, oh, sore thumb.
Who did he play again?
He played, oh, I want to say his name was like, oh, he was the guy from the CIA in the beginning and the end. He only meets
Oh,
with David Niven. But yeah,
okay, yeah, that's
anyway,
probably why. That's,
I forget what his name was. It was a memorable one. But and anyway, it also were you flabbergasted by how little it had to do with Casino Royale?
yeah, it was surprising.
I
I
didn't
mean, if you
realize.
got the rights to the book, then why not just do it scene by scene and have it be like a comedy instead of becoming so irreverent that it's like, how are these things even related to each other? And I can't really follow the logic that's going on here.
Yeah. Well, I had a better time following the logic, but I still,
No, that's not to say that it's a bad movie. I think it's still funny.
well, and also the soundtrack, like the score is incredible. Like it's Burt Bacharach and Herb Alpert and the Tijuana bass. There's a song by Dusty Springfield, right? And so,
Yeah.
and also there's sort of a jaunty James Bond kind of motif that pops up from time to time that it doesn't become a James Bond theme. It becomes just sort of like and now we're doing something else. So it's interesting. It was, and also some of the production design on it is incredible. Like there's a dance sequence at the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, and then you look at just the sets, and some of them are very like harken back to like German expressionism and some of that, and then you
Yep.
have others which are just like oh, this is supposed to be a high end casino, but it looks a little tacky. Or even the old mansion is meant to look like you got like the Scottish lords, and you have all the the family crest and everybody in the kilts, all that kind of stuff, and it's like, okay. And even Bond's mansion is unbelievably amazing and huge and all that. But then you
Yeah.
have the weirdo, sci-fi cheap type. Like they reminded me almost of Star Trek sets where Dr. Noah is
Yeah.
hiding out in the climax and stuff. And I'm like, this reminds me of early Star Trek.
Oh
Some of
no,
these sets.
it kind of reminded me of like Thunderbirds.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, especially in the room when Dr. Noah's trying to gas them all, and it's like got rocks in there, and it's almost like it's trying to mimic the outside, like on a cheap set. But it's got so many different weird designs like that. But then it's also got like a stacked cast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You've got John Huston, Barbara Boucher, Peter Sellers, Woody Allen, David
Ursula
Niven,
Andress.
Ursula Andress, a young, what's the name? Todd Michael
Orson
would
Welles.
know. Orson Welles. I forgot about Orson Welles, but no, Jacqueline Bisset.
Yes.
Credited as Jackie Bisset, which I thought was adorable.
And then what's his name? The guy who played Kronstein from Russia with Love is here as well.
Kronstein's in there. Graham Stark, if you're a fan of the Pink Panther movies, he sort of played Herbert Lom's attaché.
Yeah.
Like there, and yeah, that you
And
do get
speaking of that, isn't Kato from the Pink Panther movies is in this too?
agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
During
And
the auction sequence.
I swear to God, it was a super old Peter Lorre who played one of the because they didn't. I checked the end credits to see who everybody was played, but that crowd of generals when they were
I don't think he was alive by that time.
in 1967.
I thought he died well before that because he was already looking close to death's door even in 1954. He didn't. I don't think he lived that late. I can't check because I'm on my phone doing this because once again StreamYards is not working on my desktop. But
I am on it. 1964, he died.
Okay, yeah, 3. Okay, so he lasted longer than I thought. Okay, so 3 years. Yeah, he died 3 years before the movie. So,
but he certainly was not in 1967's Casino Royale.
No.
Yeah, I was wrong.
But another thing I remember about this movie is all of the stuff that was going on when they were trying to premiere it, and then they had like the big event where people could come. If you dressed up as characters from the movie, you'd get in like for free or something, and it became like this big mob scene because they didn't think that many people were actually going to show up. Because even the studio acknowledged that the movie was so bad to them that, well, we have to have some type of promotion, otherwise nobody's going to want to come. And then it just turned into this whole frenzy. And it's funny because there's a documentary all about this on the Casino Royale Blu-ray for the 2006 Daniel Craig version. It's called The Road to Casino Royale. And when they're talking about this movie, it seemed like all the Eon people were being kind of smug. Like they were kind of mocking the fact that the movie didn't do very well and had a disastrous opening. Like they were happy that the movie had failed or something. And that was the tone I was kind of getting from it. And but Barbara acknowledged even that this movie is essentially the precursor to Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what it is. And I still think that despite the narrative faults, I still think it's a pretty funny movie. And it drags in certain places for sure, but I think it's really funny.
The Casino Royale?
This movie, 1967.
Really?
I think it's pretty funny.
I maybe guffawed twice.
Okay. I loved all of the Orson Welles stuff. I thought that was so funny.
Why did they turn him into a magician?
Well, I think the idea was that he was using, the simple tricks to distract from the fact that he was cheating.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And how the girls are all pretending to be amazed by everything that he's doing, and he has all the world's flags on hand, and he's like, "Oh, it's the chief. He wants world peace and all this kind of crap,"
That was strange.
And I like the fact that they've had 3 of the best actors play that character. We had, Peter Lorre, as we mentioned, in '54, Orson Welles in '67, and Mads Mikkelsen in '06. Yep. That's just fantastic. Yeah, that doesn't happen very often. That's something to be celebrated there. David Niven, I like him as Bond, even though you're right, he is being a little foppish, I guess is the word that was used. And admittedly, he is a bit over the hill for playing that role, of course. Even was at the time in 1962, when they were looking at him, or 61 when they'd been looking around.
Well, and speaking of the cast, and the 17-year-old young woman who is in the
she says she's 17. I'm not sure if she is 17 though.
No, but you know which actress that was from other James Bond lore? Ruby from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. If you put a curly wig on her, it's Ruby. And I'm not saying that because they looked alike. That's who it was.
One of the angels?
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, the one he goes to a room and they make her right, and she's like, "Oh, take me away." That lady. Okay, yeah, okay.
Roommate.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's right.
Anyway, shall we just do our best to figure out what the hell happened in Casino Royale?
Yeah, this is going to be a very like what do you call it? Like an accurate reflection of the film, as we're trying to figure it out, much like when you're watching the movie and it's irreverence, and this is going to be an irreverent recap.
Well, and I'd like to say also, we just finished. You and I finished within the hour. You finished within the last half hour.
Yeah, within the last couple minutes, right before we went live.
Yeah. So this is fresh in our heads because we knew we would forget the plot if we didn't have it fresh. So, the movie opens.
Yeah, you kick it off because I had a harder time at the beginning of the movie.
Oh no! I can only get us to the opening credits. So the movie opens up, and Mathis walks through a French street side to a bus stop thing, like a European bus stop, which is sort of obscuring Peter Sellers and this character we come to find out is Mathis. He goes, Mr. Bond? And he goes, yes. Well, I'm policeman Mathis. Here are my credentials. And Peter Sellers sort of looks at his belt area and says, well, that seems to be in order. Then Mathis picks up, and it's obviously like a passport or his documents and papers and what have you. Then we go to a very ornate title sequence with old-timey printing and the main theme played by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. So then, after it lists a whole bunch of people who are in this movie, that some of which only show up for less than a minute, and then it says how many people wrote it, and then it says how many people directed it. There are way too many people who did both of those jobs. Then we get to a car or several cars who meet at a sheep flock. They get out of their vehicles and they get into one car. It drives the sheep part, and they go past the sheep, and they are headed to go meet with James Bond, Sir James Bond, retired. We have to get there quickly because he sets aside time every day to play Debussy. Every day from sunset until it is too dark to read the music this man plays, Debussy. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. So anyway, as they drive through the estate of Sir James Bond, they come across a pride of lions, and one of which jumps atop the car, and then this like black town car from the 1960s drives through the pride. Like the animals are fine. No animals were harmed. Oh wait, no, there was an animal that was harmed. Anyway, so it's just because it's funny to have a lion on top of a car. It's a funny shot. Ha ha ha.
Well, what animal was harmed now?
Well, when we get to the funeral sequence, the goat that was on the pike didn't look like it was having fun. It wasn't dead, but I wouldn't say it was having a good time. I would call that mistreatment of animals. I don't know if they do it in films today.
I can't remember the funeral scene.
Okay, don't worry. We'll get there. My God, I'm going to do my best. So they get to the estate, which is basically 3 buildings, right?
Yeah.
And you have M, you have William Holden, then you have a French Secret Service person and a Russian Secret Service person, right?
Was Mathis with them?
Was it Mathis? No, I don't think it was Mathis.
Maybe not.
Don't forget, I only saw that. Anyway, I only saw Mathis for like 40 seconds, not even. It was in the pre-title. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to yell. So they get to the house, and James Bond, played by David Niven, is completely gentlemanly. He brings them into his house. He introduces himself. There's a bunch of witty banter where they all tend to sort of say their acronyms, not their acronyms, but their titles. Like, I'm CIA from Washington, D.C. I'm KGB number 3. And they do that sort of banter back and forth. And John Huston is playing M, who ends up being, what's his name? McNulty or McTierney?
I don't remember.
It's Mick something because he's Scottish. He's putting on a very Scottish brogue. He's got a red toupee. He kind of looks like Rip Torn,
Yeah, a little
but
bit.
Scottish Rip Torn, taller. Anyway, so he offers tea to the 4 agents and says, "I can't." And they're asking, like, "How have you been since you retired? Why did you retire? You're at the top of your game. You're the best ever." And he says, "Oh, it was time. It was time." And he goes away for a second because he's fetching the tea. And then John Huston, M, says, "No, he was married to he was the one who led the Mata Hari to her death." Now, I only have a vague understanding of what the Mata Hari is, but the Mata Hari is a lady spy from the First World War who was captured and killed by the English, I think.
Yeah.
Captured from France or to England, and then she was killed. So James Bond retired after having gone through that. It was the heartbreak in his life, and he can't go on anymore. Now, is this supposed to be funny?
The fact that they're trying to tie it into all that, or they're naming it after that anyway, it's like you said, is there some British type of humor we're not getting? Because it's a convoluted and weird, but I didn't really think maybe it was supposed to be funny, because it's like, again, why are they tying in the Mata Hari for this? This is 1967, not World War One. So it's like, okay.
And they even, anyway, so James Bond is all wounded because of that. And so then James Bond brings back the tea, says, "I can't live in this world. Did you give away my name and number to that sex-crazed lunatic that you got gallivanting around the world, leaving dead women behind him like some sort of storm?" And at this point, it is just 5 old guys complaining about the world today. I feel like it's weird because it's a James Bond movie and you walk in and it's like, it's the first time I've ever seen a movie that was like, "Oh yeah, we're your grandpa's James Bond." What? Anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of the jokes, imagine an entire movie of jokes being like, well, that's just improper, like listening to the Beatles without a pair of earmuffs. It's the whole joke for a while. Anyway,
Yeah.
so James Bond doesn't like what everybody thinks James Bond is, and so you find out that he's chaste now. He's a reclusive Debussy fan, which is entertaining, I suppose, for the juxtaposition. But it's also David Niven, so we're not talking about Leslie Nielsen here. He's not mugging. Anyway, so long story short, they say, "You got to come back. You got to come back. They're killing our spies all over the world. We had 3 different spies in 3 different places with alliterative deaths that indicate that all of the spies now are just going to brothels and bordellos and geisha parlors and things of the like. So something must be done." So James Bond says, "No, I can't. I won't. It hurts too much." A letter from the Queen of England is presented, and it's like, it doesn't seem like a joke. Is the joke that you cannot say no to a sealed envelope from Windsor Castle if you're James? Anyway. He says, "No, I'm afraid I can't." He lights lights a cigar, and then a bunch of what I assumed are British troops start launching mortars at James Bond's house.
Yes, M is the one who had them do that because he needs to give Bond a reason to take up the mission.
Oh, my stars. Hang on just one second. I have So anyway, can you explain what happens after just for a little while? I'll catch you up. But I got to go take care of something in the chat. And
okay.
Yeah, you go.
So M blows up Bond's house. Bond doesn't seem to know it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, these are the Smirch guys that are trying to kill you because they found out about what's been going on? They're worried and we need you. And he's like, okay, what the hell do you want? Kind of thing. And during this fracas, M gets killed. I can't exactly remember how it happens, but it happens. And Bond is tasked at first of just taking the ashes back to his estate in the north. And Bond figures at the very least he will do that for him. So he goes to M's estate, which is a Scottish castle up in the Scottish Highlands. And he gets there and finds that it's this big castle's like it's been run by all these beautiful women, and it's like a harem. And Bond goes in there and they're trying to accommodate him, and they're giving him a bath, and he finds out the girl giving him a bath is only 17, and he's wondering what the hell's going on here, and it takes him a while to pick up on the fact that this is basically a brothel. And when he does figure, it's essentially being
you're right.
Yeah, it's putting on the airs of a brothel, but specifically a brothel for James Bond. And he finds out from the lady Fiona, who is a play on the what's her name from Thunderball.
Yes.
She is won over by James Bond's charms and decides to come clean. And she says, these are all Spurs agents who've moved into the castle, and they were trying to seduce you and take you down or whatever. And there was a couple instances where there are these big muscular guys there who were trying to like kill Bond in these weird ways, like throwing weighted chains and balls and stuff at him or whatever, and they sucked at it because Bond is still Bond and he could fight them off. And she decides that we need to help you escape to get out of here. And at one point, the Smersh agents take this airplane, which looks like a duck, and they're flying it around like a bomb and trying to chase him, and it just gets very weird. And the lady Fiona, or I think it's her, eventually says that, I'll help you get out through this passage to the countryside, but I'm leaving. I'm going to go join a convent or something weird like that. I'm like, where? This movie's losing me.
Well, no, see, the thing was, and there were feats of strength. Like the entire thing was designed to make it so that James Bond would relinquish his virtue. It's almost like, anyway, he wasn't going to be the stereotypical James Bond. I know this movie is so frustrating, but there is a plot and a reason towards all of it. It's just that if you actually watch it, and it's like, I don't know if this is funny. It's not. It's tropes. It's pointing things out, but I don't know if it's funny. So he like goes.
Well, I thought the stuff at the castle with all the women there was actually pretty funny.
Well, it was. I apologize for being red-blooded and male, but I was not. I was like, oh, she's pretty. Oh, she's pretty. I wasn't really. The humor was falling flat. Even the stuff with the balls.
Yeah, that one was admittedly pretty cheap.
But it's funny. Like the thing is that if I say it like that, like the worst part about this review is that it's a James Bond movie, but we also have to explain jokes. And so if I say there's a James Bond movie with balls in it, that's hilarious. But when you see it, not so much.
Yeah. And then at one point there was the cutaway to reveal his nephew Jimmy Bond supposedly being lined up for an execution squad.
Yeah.
And he just steps over the fence to make a daring escape, only to land on the other side and face another execution squad. That was pretty cool.
And also I did appreciate, like in one of the gags that I was like, oh, that was clever. Again, not a guffaw. When he says, "Can I have the last cigarette? I swear I'm giving it up," and then he throws it away and it becomes a bomb. It was like, yay, that's kind of James Bondish.
Yeah.
Anyway, so. Yeah, they have the little duck airplane because they've gone pheasant shooting. The whole, and they get him drunk with like so much whiskey, and there's like, chicks are just falling all over him, and it's like we can't get him with vice, and so it's like, okay, if we can't get him with vice, we're gonna kill him. And they had the thing where they have like there's a button on his hunting cloak, his pheasanting cloak, that is magnetized and it directs the airplanes. God, you look like you're having a blast reliving this right after watching it. Anyway. So whatever, Fiona, the French Scotswoman, she ends up helping Bond finding the button, and they sling it back and forth with his suspenders.
Yeah.
Until something blows up. Did we miss the milk truck chase? Or is that later?
I think that comes afterwards when he's leaving on his way back to London.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah, that's on his way back to London. It's like their allusion to the chase in Thunderball when he leaves but whatever that place was called. Um it's on the tip of my tongue. The clinic where he was recuperating.
Yes.
That place. Yeah, it's a riff on that. So basically, after escaping this harem of all the Smurfs agents with Fiona's help, he takes a car ride back towards London, and this is where the car chase begins, like the milk car and some other Spectre agents, and it keeps cutting, or Smurf agents, and it keeps cutting away to this control room where there are these ladies sitting in the middle with all the this like miniature roadway map with little toy cars, and they're simulating the chase and they're following it. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like they're following it in real time.
But that was sort of like a cute character design, production design thing.
It was, yeah, it was funny. Because I'm like, how are they able to monitor this? They're not watching on a computer or anything, but they're just like randomly moving the cars around on the track. So that was fun. And they're keeping track. Oh, still in pursuit. Oh, we lost car number 3 or whatever. And then you see the big car chase happen. And at one point, it was who was it that swerves to a halt in front of the gate and then explodes? That wasn't Fiona, was it?
No. That was just another lady who wants to kill James Bond.
Okay. Yeah, so eventually he makes it back to London.
Yes.
Yeah. And when he gets back there, he decides that in light of recent events, he's going to take up the post, M's old post, head of MI6, and deal with the problem. And he is told
they do specifically say MI5. I don't think they ever... Moving on.
And he's specifically told that, these agents are being assassinated around the world. And he decides to come up with a plan. He's like, we're going to name all of our agents James Bond, because apparently they have it out for me. That way they won't be able to figure out who's who. It'll confuse them. And he starts a rigorous training program to, get them to be able to resist temptation, because he is told by Moneypenny that the terminology that's been applied to a lot of these agents, that they're a bunch of sex maniacs.
Yes.
And there's like a whole map, this world map, which has all the little pins and Post-its where all these agents are. And he notices that there's 2 of them for James Bond down in the Caribbean. He's like, what's this about? And the guy's like, oh, well, we haven't talked to this agent in a while. We kind of lost contact. We just knew about these 2 places. So he might be either or. And he's also a sex maniac, laying low. And he's like, well, who is it? He's like, oh, and it's the Peter Sellers character that we get to meet.
No, that's
or is that Jimmy?
That's Jimmy.
Oh, yeah, it's Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy's the one who's in the Caribbean. Okay. And so he comes up with this plan, because they figured out that this guy, Lashif, has been embezzling money from Smirsh and needs to get it back. And that he has to pay him back because this money is being used to finance these assassination plots or whatever. And so he needs to get a lead. And one of the leads takes them to this auction house. And they get, is this where Peter Sellers steps in?
No. Okay. Wait, no, this is where Peter Sellers... Okay, so I think this is where Peter Sellers steps in, because this is where he finally... He's organizing everything, and he says, everybody's named James Bond. Okay, there are a couple of jokes about everybody being named James Bond. Oh, no, this is where they train that one handsome guy, Coop. So he says, you got to go... This is how we make a bunch of James Bonds, is that we go and we find one who is irresistible to women, but doesn't succumb to their feminine wilds. And so Barbara Boucher, who is playing Moneypenny's daughter, is sent to train for the anti-female spy program or something. Or the anti-spy. It's not anti-female. It's like maybe it is. But it is like...
Or is it anti-male, like they're trying to train themselves to be ignore men as well or something?
Well, no, they ignore... James Bond, David Niven, ultimately wants to train the new species, the new James Bond, so that he is... he's irresistible to women, but he can resist women. So don't be a sex addict, but if they like you, it's cool. Yep. Be a gentleman spy is basically, and again, that echoes the
use your irresistibility to get what you need and to keep them distracted, but don't fall for their charms, and don't be like the actual James Bond who's like, I'll be there in an hour, Moneypenny. Let's make it 2.
Yeah. No.
Like, don't do that.
David Niven's James Bond shows up in 15 minutes with a fresh shave. So anyway, so they train Herbie from Get Smart, and then after he goes through like this rigorous training by like a bunch of hot women come up to him and try and seduce him, and then he just like judo throws them. I don't know if they must have had stunt doubles. When you think about it,
for sure.
but and that was kind of silly, and I was like, I can't believe he's just throwing chicks. But when you watch James Bond movies, it's like, I can't believe he's just punching chicks. Shot her in the face. So this isn't like an out of the ordinary thing.
Right.
Next, we get to the introduction, because that's a little skit, and
this is when we meet Peter Sellers.
I think this is where we meet Ursula Andress, because she's doing business in like a cabaret outfit, and
that's right. She's Vesper.
Yeah, she's Vesper Lind, and she is also a retired. She's retired. And Ursula Andress says, "Who are you?" And David Niven says, well, "I'm James Bond." And it's like, well, that's a weird thing to happen. To have Ursula Andress and be like, wow, I guess that's two Bonds. Actually, Ursula Andress has probably worked with the most James Bonds of any actress.
Two?
Well, Peter Sellers plays James Bond.
Oh, well, yeah, not really. Well, he's one of the codename Bonds. He's not the like real... in this movie. David Niven is supposed to be the real James Bond.
The original, yes.
Yes, he's the only James Bond. And then she worked with him, and then she worked with Connery. So that's two right there. And then the other people who've been nicknamed that, it's like, you guys don't count.
All right. Yeah. You make the rules. So anyway, we go to Vesper Lind. She is deep into business. She buys things. She sells things. She's going to get the statue of Lord Nelson from Trafalgar Square. It's going to be in her backyard. I'm assuming that she has the same backstory of... No, never mind. I'm not going to try and put this in continuity with the Vesper Lind that we know from the other Casino Royale.
Yeah.
She's not a treasurer. She's not a retired treasurer. I don't think that... Anyway, so they meet for the first time. James Bond offers to make some investments with her, and they will recuperate any of her troubles. Right. I want you to go find... Evelyn, what's his last name? His first name is Evelyn.
Trumbull?
Yes.
Trumbull.
So Evelyn Trumbull.
Tremble?
Tremble.
Tremble. Tremble.
My mistake.
Yep.
So Evelyn Tremell.
Jesus.
I know. I'm sorry. So anyway, no, I'm not. Anyway, so
no, you're
not. You have to go find this guy because he wrote a book. And so Ursula Andress goes to like a sort of dive casino, and it's got one-armed bandits, and goes, and it's Peter Sellers, everybody, playing Evelyn Tremble. Isn't Evelyn a girl's name? No, it's mine. And they have flirty, funny. You know what? A better version of this is Priscilla Presley and Leslie Nielsen. Anyway,
yeah,
the double entendre kind of thing, but it doesn't work because I was startled by Peter Sellers being, fairly, like, he wasn't being a character. He was just being a guy. And usually when you see him, he's being a character. And so it was interesting to see him out of makeup, if you will. Anyway, they make out. She wants to go and talk about the book. There are several things I didn't understand about the book from chapter 6 or 7. And he's like, oh, I want to. Now, at this point, we don't know what kind of book he wrote. It's just a lot of double entendres, and they must be, how's your father? Is she a goer? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. Is this kind of scene. It's weird, though, because it's Ursula Andress and Peter Sellers. And so Peter Sellers goes to Ursula Andress's house. She is in the midst of disposing of a body. And through her kitchen false refrigerator pantry something or other, and then she calls her maid or housekeeper to say, please don't forget to empty the icebox in the morning right away. Lets Peter Sellers in. She, in a glorious set, like this bedroom or whatever it is, this lounge looks fantastic, and you get a vision of Lord Nelson out the back, and it's like, oh no, that's in Trafalgar Square, and it's like, oh no, I bought it, it's mine now. And so she's obviously very wealthy and powerful, and she has a hankering to recruit Peter Sellers. They do more double entendres, and then I guess, I don't know. So they're in this sort of recessed couch. It drops through the floor. Peter Sellers says, don't you ever get any complaints from the neighbors? And it's like, I don't know if you want me to suspend my disbelief or not, guy. And so they get to Ursula Andress's bedroom. She's dancing in slow motion, and Peter Sellers is doing push-ups in an old-timey swimsuit to work up a sweat or something. It doesn't seem that they've done it, although that they've made out. So Vesper Lind is continuing to do the recruiting process for Evelyn, and so says, oh, I want to see how you react to putting on different hats and things. And so go into that closet and put on the clothes and then come back out. And so Evelyn thinks that Vesper Lind is into cosplay. So he goes in and he starts, what's the first thing he wears? Ugh. I'm pretty sure the first thing he comes out of the closet wearing is a full-on Hitler. It's Peter Sellers dressed as Hitler. Yep. The second one is Napoleon. At which point, it's during this sort of fashion montage of trying on in just costumes. Oh, what else? Toulouse-Lautrec he dresses up as. And so, this is where you find out that he wrote a book on bridge. And so, do you know who Le Chiffre is? Of course I know who Le Chiffre is. Le Chiffre is one of my biggest fans. I wrote a book on bridge, as you know. And so Vesper says, well, we need you to go beat him at Baccarat. Sorry, not bridge, Baccarat. My mistake. And so it is very plot heavy.
Well, did you skip the part? I think you skipped the part where we go to the auction.
No, because we still haven't introduced Mata Hari or Mata Bond.
Okay.
Because Mata Bond is it's right after we're introduced to Evelyn that we meet Mata Bond. Now, Mata Bond is the child of the Mata Hari and James Bond. That is a thing. So she goes off because James Bond thinks that, and lies to the staff, says it's my goddaughter. And then when he goes to visit, says, you are the image of your mother. And it's like, who are you? I'm James Bond. Daddy. And so it's like, all right. So he's going to send his daughter because he thinks that she would be a very good spy because she's not that good of a dancer. But she is introduced with a glorious, sort of at the hour mark of the film, a glorious dancing scene. Like there's a bunch of doors that swing open. It's great. The production
value. And it's worth noting, this is the first Bond film to introduce Bond's daughter.
It's true. This is also the first James Bond movie where James Bond dies. But we're not counting that. So, Mata Bond is being sent to West Berlin via taxi. And then we cut, this is from London. They leave MI6 headquarters, and they oh wait. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. So they leave the headquarters. They go to they just leave the front door and say, "Well, how am I going to get to Berlin?" And they say, "Oh, taxi." And then so they say, "Where are you headed?" "Berlin." He's like, "East or west?" And they're like, "West." And he's like, "Oh, that's all right then." So he drives from London to Berlin. And we cut to Berlin, and Matabond goes to the Matahari's original training ground, like the place that she was a spy in. In the First World War, and so they. And one of the speaking of comedy from the 1960s, Ronnie Corbett shows up from the Two Ronnies. I don't know if you're familiar with the Two Ronnies. That was I just recognized him and I was like, "Hey, is that a Ronnie?" And it was like, "Yes, it was." So there's like a Smersh training ground. She infiltrates it, and one of the Ronnies, who I think his name is Polo, who is a short German character, although Ronnie Corbett was a very diminutive man. And so he says Lashif is coming to sell off his art collection. And so then the woman in charge, I suppose the madam, says, "Oh, there's an art sale tonight." Oh, with Lashif, like there's this whole back and forth denial banter. Like there are sparks of entertainment. It's interesting to watch, but I wouldn't recommend it. Anyway, one thing leads to another in terms of it's a German expressionistic Tim Burton-esque Escher painting of a building that she's in. She goes, there's a bunch of blackmail pictures that is being sold to the militaries of the world. And oh my God. And I think I'm making Cat fall asleep. And maybe we can make this a two-parter if you want me to stop.
No, we can keep going. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So she ends up through a revolving toilet. Like she says, "I've never gone around on a John before." And it's like, my God, it was 1967, but I've seen things from 67 that I thought was funnier. So she goes, she gets all the pictures of the blackmail. She comes back to this toilet that obviously isn't a toilet, but she dumps all the films into their little slides, into the toilet. She tries to get away, and she does eventually, I think. I'm pretty sure. The taxi driver ends up being from the Foreign Office, comes in, rescues her. She beats up everybody. She uses like a fire extinguisher and she swings on a chandelier. Oh, by the time, she's dressed up like I Dream of Jeannie this entire time. Just so you know, as soon as she walks into the place, she takes off of her overcoat and she looks like I Dream of Jeannie. So anyway, she gets out of West Berlin. And we go back to what happens next?
I think this is where they go to the auction house, isn't it?
No, that already happened. The auction house with all the generals and the militaries.
And they chased him through the building. That already happened.
Yeah. Don't worry, you took a nap. It's fine.
I was closing my eyes because I was trying to replay the thing in my head.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. So we've gone through the auction house, and yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So then we're back in London. What happens next?
It's okay if we miss some stuff. I mean, that's how confusing the movie is, and it'll be an accurate reflection in our review of what the movie is.
I think this is because this is the gag, because as they're leaving, because you're right, I did sort of skip over is that we get that Kronstein from Russia with Love. He is he's an associate of Lashif, And so when this is going, he's trying to sell the things, and Bert Kwok is there, and not Peter Lorre in the background. And so they're doing all of this stuff. But in the Escher painting thing, behind the scenes is where Mata Bond is going to, and she ends up just stealing all the stuff and throwing it into the toilet, and they run through the building and everything. And then Kronstein goes over and calls Orson Welles, Le Chiffre, and says, we can't do the auction. They stole your stuff. And he's like, well, then I'll win it by playing Baccarat. And he's like, well, what will you do with me? And so they blow up the phone booth that Kronstein is
I
in.
like that.
Which
I
also
like that Le Chiffre has a little switch for a bomb in a random phone booth outside this building. That's just great.
But this is the part that's kind of like when I'm asking myself, is this funny? Because it is funny in this particular instance.
Well, I thought it was really funny because it's just so ridiculous that he has that. Like, why?
I'll tell you why he has it. Because when he launches it, it blows a hole in the Berlin Wall, and people start running through from the east.
Well, like I know, but I meant it's funny because it's this big, not very conspicuous, very conspicuous telephone booth leaning right up against the wall that's got loaded with enough explosives to do this, and nobody's noticed. Because when you think about the Berlin Wall, you think really tight security, and yet no, he's got this big telephone booth bomb just sitting there against. And that just happened to be the phone booth that Kronstein went to go call him from, rather than just, fleeing further into the city before making his call. So I thought that was kind of funny.
That was funny. Well, but he was
in
also
a slapsticky type of way.
In a slapsticky kind of way, of course. So anyway, that's when we're introduced to Le Chiffre, which makes us go back to Peter Sellers, because we have to propel the Bond Evelyn meeting Le Chiffre. And so is this when, I think this is when Peter Sellers goes to Casino Royale.
It is. It's when he goes there, and what happens is he first shows up there, and I think Vesper's there, and she shows him. He's like, "Who's that?" She's like, "Oh, that's Le Chiffre," and she introduces him, and he sees him doing this whole magician thing, and he's got his glasses, and the girls are like, "Oh, he never loses," and he's winning against everybody at the table and showing off all the world flags. Oh, Le Chiffre for world peace and all this kind of stupid shit. And he's like, "Okay, that's Le Chiffre," and he's like, and she's like, "Oh, he's gonna be playing baccarat for the money." And Peter Sellers is like, "Oh, okay," but I think he goes to his room before he starts. Before he does that.
Well, yeah, and that
does.
Because when he lands in wherever, France, I guess, wherever their version of Casino Royale is, Peter Sellers gets off the plane. He's not wearing his glasses. He's already done like a whole bunch of James Bond training, and so now he's there. Oh yeah, we missed the Q scene.
I know Q was in the movie. I don't remember the scene.
Long story short, he gets a video watch from Dick Tracy. They even pointed out, and also something about a poison pen letter.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. There's a gadget scene, and again, there's sort of like a carry-on. Are you being served? LGBTQ stereotype, if you will.
Yeah, it was a good show.
But yeah, so they get gadgets. It's fine. It's not Desmond Llewellyn, so you don't really have to pay attention. Anyway. So yeah, and James Bond goes to France, punches the customs agent through the back wall of the booth, and just to show how tough he is. And then he goes to his hotel, and that's where Jacqueline Bisset is. And he's not wearing his glasses. He tries to be suave and shoot the cork off of a champagne bottle. He misses, but when he puts on his glasses, he can start being cool. But then Jacqueline Bisset, whatever her name is in the film, I'm just referring to the actress.
Yeah. You go.
She drugs the champagne, and then he undrugs the champagne, but apparently anyway. So he went into some sort of weird psychedelic foggy dream about Vesper, woke up and was like, And no, Vesper is there and being like, what happened? What happened? And he was like, what happened to Jacqueline Bisset? And it's like, it doesn't matter. You have to go get your head in the game. And so he goes into a shower and because she's trying to freshen him up. But he's also stereotypically Englishly hairy. He's wearing a sweater. And I mean back of arms, ladies. Peter Sellers got hot ladies. I don't know how he did it. He was built like a monkey. Kat is just closing her eyes to imagine Peter Sellers in a shower.
No.
Anyway, so they go into the casino, and this is the part that you were referring to, where they go in and they sit down, and James Bond introduces himself all over the place as James Bond. He brings in a briefcase with $100,000 in it, and everyone's really impressed that he has $100,000, but not as impressed as they are that he is James Bond.
Yeah.
So he sits down at the table. Le Chiffre is there, played by Maurice LaMarche. And sorry, I was just thinking of the voice actor. So then, he does magic tricks. Like there's a point where he stares at a woman who is not acknowledged until she falls backwards in a trance, put on a table, and then the table rises.
Yeah, he's doing all these magician tricks because the way he's been cheating at cards is he uses the X-ray glasses, and then once he actually loses the glasses during the game, he has to try and distract them some other way. So that's when he starts doing all the magic tricks.
See, you understand motivation. I dig it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bond loses consistently at Baccarat, and until he triples the bet to like 40 million francs or something like that. And which I don't know how much that is in 1967 francs or $1967. But it sounds like a lot, doesn't it? So they do the bet, and James Bond beats Le Chiffre. And so James Bond and Vesper Lynn, they collect the check, and Vesper and Evelyn leave Casino Royale, at which point Vesper's kidnapped, and Bond gets into a really expensive car to the point that he breaks the fourth wall to say how fast it is in sort of rhyming joke that ends with T. It's entertaining. But then all of a sudden, Bond is kidnapped. There is no transitional scene. There is no explanation. Bond is captured by Le Chiffre. Le Chiffre is in a control room, and Bond is in some sort of painful holodeck or X-Men war room, where there is a reference to the chair with the missing seat. It's just about to be reupholstered. My apologies, Mr. Bond. So what are you going to do? Nothing me to death? And it's like, no, we're going to psychologically damage you. At which point the movie makes no sense for a little while.
Yeah, and you get into this really weird psychedelic sequence where he's out on like the plains, and you have all of the guys in the kilts and the bagpipes, and it's like, what's going on? And that's where he said there was a cameo by
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole
says to Peter Sellers, "Are you Richard Burton?" And he says, "No, I'm Peter O'Toole." And Peter O'Toole says to him, "Then you are the greatest man to ever draw breath." And it's like, all right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we'll get Peter O'Toole to say this very self-aggrandizing quote in the Bond movie and see if it means anything. I wonder so there's that, and then Le Chiffre keeps playing around with the psychedelics for a bit, and finally the guys from Smirch chime in, and they call Le Chiffre wanting to know about the money, and he's like, "Oh, just give me a day or whatever, a couple hours, I'll get it." And they're like, "Nah," and the guy crashes through the TV with a gun and shoots Le Chiffre in the head.
I thought that was actually kind of frightening. That was a cool way to put it in. It was like he was looking at the monitor, and then they walked through the monitor and shot him through the head. I thought that was like Lynchian. Like it was almost almost a good, cool thing.
I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
And so that's how they got Le Chiffre. And
that's how they got Le Chiffre. So now that Casino Royale is done, we have to finish off with the rest of Casino Royale.
So then they go back to London.
So they go back to London.
and
Oh
the
no, no,
flying
no, no,
saucer thing shows.
no, because
Yeah.
when they're right, but that has nothing to do with the finality of the story. Because let's not forget, um, Evelyn is killed by Vesper Lind with a machine gun bagpipes.
Yeah.
That is, and so we're done with Peter Sellers and Ursula Andress. They're not in there anymore. Or no, does Ursula Andress shows up? Ursula Andress shows up again. Vesper Lind shows up again. So
I think so.
I think so.
I don't remember Peter Sellers dying in the movie, but okay. He
No,
probably
because
did.
they show her machine gun down all of the Scottish people, and then Peter Sellers is the last person standing. But then she says, "Never trust something that I couldn't understand," and shoots again with the machine gun bagpipe, and then Peter Sellers is on the ground. So I assume she killed her.
Mm.
Anyway, so now we go and oh my god. So David Niven, there's a spaceship that looks like it's on fishing line, and it lands in Trafalgar Square where the Lord Nelson was supposed to be, and it kidnaps Matabond. Matabond is taken away in a flying saucer, which has a Borg sphere that comes out of it, and it goes underneath Casino Royale, and that's where Matabond is. So David Niven and Barbara Boucher, they with Jaime again. He's back in the picture. He just shows up without any sort of, hey, you're coming with us? It's just like, nope, he's just there. They go to find Matabond by going through the main Casino Royale. They go into the depths. They have to go through a bunch of weird sort of trap rooms. There's some of them are funny. Oh, and then we get to who has been pulling the strings, who killed Lashif, who is in charge of killing all of these spies. And we find out that it is Dr. Noah after a brief tussle and some interesting hijinks involving water hoses, like really cool traps, and with great designed sets.
Yeah.
That all ends up to there have been doubles of James Bond, or David Niven's James Bond specifically. They made robots of those guys. And so James Bond is like, oh, that's actually rather breathtaking. May I have a closer look? And then he kicks the machine gun out of its hand and then shoots it, discovering that it's a robot. So anyway, James Bond, now having a machine gun, shoots through the silhouetted pane of Dr. Noah's very Blofeld-esque representation. And guess what, everybody? It's Jimmy Bond. That's right. It wasn't just a cameo from Woody Allen. He's the villain. So Woody Allen is the nephew of James Bond, and he has an inferiority complex. There's a bit of a silent comedic performance from Woody Allen because his character is unable to speak in the presence of David Niven. And so then I think he puts Jaime, Barbara Boucher, and David Niven in a room for an intricate death trope. They figure out a way out. They build explosive with pillows and chandeliers, I guess. Woody Allen, on the other hand, is trying to make it so that every woman in the world is beautiful, and every man over the height of 4'6" dies. Because it's a joke about Woody Allen being short and needing to get chicks. By the way, this is like a maxim from 1967. So it's just a catalog of attractive women in bikinis. But not only that is his dastardly plan, but he does have one more that's worse. He has a Tylenol that if you take it, it will turn every atom in your body into a nuclear bomb. That blows up a house. That's the size of that. Sorry, spoilers. So anyway, he interrogates a woman who had been training, not James Bond, who's trying to get away from being interested in ladies at the beginning of the movie. She comes back, lovely actress, cheeky even. Anywho, so they team up for a little while until she poisons him with that nuclear bomb pill. And James Bond has gone down to the bottom of the lair. Obviously, they've broken out of their easily escapable defeat. And on their, they're trying to get out. They find a way out. They cross paths with Frankenstein at one point. They lead them to the proper. Frankenstein leads them to the proper elevator. They get to the top, and then they launch the laughing gas in the main lobby of the Casino Royale. Woody Allen. Oh, yeah. Woody Allen has like 364 hiccups until he explodes. So we constantly cut back to Woody Allen hiccuping.
Is it just me, or does the whole entire plot at this point, when Dr. Noah shows up, just completely shifts gears? Like, it's not even about, the Smersh plot to assassinate all the agents anymore. It's like Dr. Noah doing this weird thing.
Well, no, but there's an implication that Dr. Noah is making doubles to run the world. So
Right.
he's capturing and doubling different. He wants the entire world to be under his control through his automaton people. And so that's the whole point. And then destroying the spies was also like because of Jimmy Bond's insecurities towards the original James Bond. That's what made it so that he wanted to kill James Bond specifically. Hence the spy killing. So it does kind of tie together, although in no real crescendo, because every reveal is a punchline. That's what happens. Yeah. So we get to the end, and Jimmy Bond is played by Woody Allen. Hiccups his last hiccup. The building where everyone that we've paid attention to so far and who is still alive, they all blow up. And then the credits.
We mentioned the part about the Cowboys and the Indians storming the casino.
Would you like to tell them about the Cowboys and the Indians storming the casino?
Yes, so we have some very stereotypically designed Indians parachuting out of this airplane that says 007 all over it. And they come crashing through the skylight in the main entrance at the ballroom of the casino. And you have cowboys on horseback storming through the casino as well. And it's not clear who they're affiliated with or why they're even here. But they are. Like, I guess they wandered off the Old West set and ended up here. And so they're all shooting and attacking each other. And there's this one gangster walks up to Bond, and he's like, I've shot myself. It's a trick gun. I'm dead. He falls over dead. You have, Woody Allen just kind of innocuously going through the casino, hiccuping everywhere. And nobody knew that he had his secret lair under there. And it's just all these random people just hiding and running, and they're getting caught in the crossfire from all the Cowboys and the Indians getting killed.
There are two sea lions that fight.
Yeah, there's two sea lions that fight, and people trying to grab the money, and it just gets out of control until Woody Allen, it seemed, was trying to make his way, or Jimmy Bond, I should say, was trying to make his way to the door, Dr. Noah. And it's right when he gets to the door, when he finally has the last hiccup, which blows everything up. And we see that Jimmy Bond, Dr. Noah, goes to hell. And James Bond and Evelyn Trimble and Vesper go to heaven.
And Moneypenny.
I think. Yeah. Because everybody dies. And it's like, I don't know what. And that's Casino Royale. And I don't know what could have happened in the writer's room that led them to think these were all great ideas, or why. Because the ending almost feels like they just didn't know what to do and just gave up and like, well, let's just kill everybody. Like, okay. Like, even the whole reveal of Dr. Noah's secret underground base and his plot to kill, kind of reminiscent of when you have No Time to Die, or you're following this story with Spectre and the Virus, and then all of a sudden, oh, here's a guy with a god complex that screw the world over. Like, okay. So it's kind of like that in a way that to me, it always felt like a left field ending. And it's like, okay, because like we're telling the story of Lashif, the Backrack, and the agents, and then out of the blue, Jimmy Bond is Dr. Noah, and just kind of taking over the climax. It's like, okay.
But But in terms of the production issues with the movie, Orson Welles and Peter Sellers did not get along at all. In fact, a lot of their scenes were shot separately. There was a big clash of personality between them. And so a lot of the stuff, like there's even montages in this movie of things. It's like, well, I never even saw this part of the movie. Like I think what they were trying to do initially was make it like, I feel like David Niven may have been shoehorned in, or no, that's not true. I don't know what they were thinking. You're right. The writer's room was all on Devil's Cabbage.
Directed by John Huston.
A segment of it. I find it to be very episodic. I don't think that they...
Yeah, it is. See, it's blah, blah, blah. Yeah, here's all the people that are in it. Oh, they got Jordan Draft, Charles. Okay. They were directed by... Oh, I see. By John Huston, Ken Hughes, Val Guest, Robert Parrish, and Joe McGrath. For some reason, John Huston's name is above all of theirs. Like all those other directors are on the lower line. And then we have screenplay by Wolf Mankiewicz. Wow. John Law, Michael Sayers. Michael Sayers, okay. And music by Burt Bacharach, who also comes back to cameo in Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, of course.
For that as well. So that's actually kind of interesting.
But I think that you don't want to give too much credit to Austin Powers because you already had things like Our Man Flint and...
yeah, for sure. I was just mentioning that I remember because Burt Bacharach was actually in that movie. And he does the music.
Fair enough. But
and like the weird things in his lair where his lady's all tied up. He's like, oh, this magic pill will make all women beautiful, turn everybody else, kill everybody who's not, every man who's taller than 4.6. Like, okay. A little weird. And and he asks her, like, am I intimidating to you? Do I have an intimidating figure? She's like, no.
No.
So that was kind of funny. And again, with the whole weird thing with the toxic gas and how you have Frankenstein and all these people wandering around inside the Dr. Noah's facility when it's being in the process of blown to smithereens and evacuating and flooding. And the fact that he has a flying saucer that carries all over the world, the duplicates, and some of them apparently have already been swapped because the real ones are inside these what look like the big hairdresser things that you see in the salon, And it's like, this is really weird. And that's just where the movie really lost me. It lost me in general, but I thought it was kind of funny. And again, I have no clue what happened in the writer's room. It might be a case, you're right, of way too many. It says there's only 3 credited writers, but I'm thinking that this sounds a lot worse than that. This sounds like it was just maybe the directors were improvising a lot. Like you said, maybe the clash of personalities just resulted in people going off script and doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just a complete mess. And seeing as they did have the rights to the book, I don't know why they didn't just adapt the book and do it properly instead of doing this. But it's like, okay.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it would be something to do with the competition with the No, I don't know. Because I'm baffled because I remember that there are sort of off-brand Doctor Who movies with Peter Cushing. So there's no reason that you couldn't have your own James Bond movie. It's that it wouldn't have any of the James Bond stuff. So you might as well make a lighthearted, different version. Anyway, do you want to rate it?
Oh God, that's hard. I guess I'd give it a 3. I mean, it's very irreverent. I can't follow the story that much because it's all over the place. And because of that, sometimes it's just really boring to get through, even though I do find some of the jokes to be funny. I admit it's funnier to watch with friends. It is.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe if I was watching it with friends, I would give it maybe like a 4 out of 10, but it's still not a good film.
Well, and this is also one of those ones that we don't necessarily have to keep within the confines of being a James Bond movie, or do we?
It's true. No, we don't.
Like, if it's within the confines of a James Bond movie, like 1. If it's in
like a 1.
If it's in the confines of appreciating a weird response to a cultural phenomenon with an almost, I don't know, epic movie, those epic movie or superhero. No, well, superhero movie is fine, but like not another teen movie kind of thing where it's
Yeah.
basically just riffing on a genre. But I would still rather watch Our Man Flint over this.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that actually has a story and is charming. This one is just, I don't even know what it is. Anyway, so yeah, no, I would say because we are doing a James Bond show, I would say I'm giving it a 1.
All right, I'll give it a 2. I know I said 3 before. I'm just gonna give it a 2. I thought it was a little funny, but I don't know what it is.
Now, I would like to point one thing out, and this is
So
part
I
of the
like that
reason
it
why.
exists. Yeah, what would you like to point out?
You gave Die Another Day 1, and you're giving
Okay.
this better marks than Die Another Day?
Well, I'm not comparing this to the rest of the Bond movies. It would get a 0 if it was trying to be, because it's not a Bond movie.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because
then I'm
it
going
doesn't have a villain. It doesn't have a villain. It doesn't really have a coherent plot. It's just very like, what the hell's going on? So
It has 2
in
villains.
relation to other Bond movies, I would give it like a 0. But as a comedy or something that's still funny to watch every once in a while with friends, I'd give it like a 2 or a 3.
Oh, I would. You know what? For curiosity's sake, I will give it a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is.
So what
It
is
is.
So what's the chat saying about this film?
Well, let's find out. LDG of Geeks and Joys, ahoy! And Cam's Crash Courses is here. The Phantasmagorium show. And Cam is the only one in the vote who says he wants us to do 1954's Casino Royale next.
We will.
So, all right. I guess that's we've decided. Oh, Canadian Spider-Man. I did acknowledge. Yep. And then nice comfy couch. Oh, nice. Let's see. There are a couple of highs. Cam's Crash Courses and LDG from Canadian Spider-Man. Good day. You know what? I'm going to skip over the Spider-Man comments, Canadian Spider-Man, just because, you know what? Maybe we'll do a recap of those. Captain Marty Spock is here.
That's right. It'd be a good time to tell them that once we finish all our Bond topics and stuff, we'll probably continue reviewing movies. We'll just move on to a different series.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still plenty of James Bond stuff to talk about. We could talk about some of the games still and some of the books, but inevitably, because of how long it takes to get new Bond movies, we're going to have to end this show, and pick a different series to review. So that'll be something to watch out for in the same time slot, of course.
Yeah, and it would be fun. I do like Spider-Man stuff. So, yeah, no, Cam's Crash Course, you're absolutely right. In regards to David Niven, he plays a foppish toff in comedies, tweaking the nose of the British class system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I prefer him, well, when you're comparing him to him being a possibility of the original Bond, it's like, these are the kinds of things that I look at and I'm just like, my frame of comparison, even a young David Niven, I'm just like, no, there's something, I don't know. An excellent M across the board, but oh, nice. Captain Marty Spock says in Europe it was released as Casino Royale with cheese because of the metric system. Okay. Oh, yeah. Cam's Crash Courses says, I love this version of Casino Royale. It's a hoot. Niven, a veteran of special operations executive, absolutely he was, knows about spies and plays it for laughs. Yeah.
He does.
Him being regimented through it is part of the reason why I enjoy his performance.
I think I also would have liked it more if it stuck with him, because it was very much his movie up until Peter Sellers shows up, and then it just kind of becomes the Peter Sellers show. And so it's,
But I think that's also, like, David Niven and Peter Sellers never share a scene.
Right. But to your point of how you would rather watch Our Man Flint than Casino Royale, I would rather watch Peter Sellers as Inspector Clouseau in the Pink Panther movies than Air.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Humans are animals. Were any humans harmed? Only me for watching.
Were any animals harmed, he says.
No, I
Yes.
know, but humans are animals.
Yeah. I'm sure
Oh.
somebody was.
I thought I already blocked you. Heavens. It's too late now. Yeah, it's fine. We had a bot in the chat, Cat. It's great. I fended it off. I shot it. Canadian Spider-Man says, I've seen Lord Nelson's column. Impressively tall. Have you ever been to London?
Nope.
Me either. Canadian Spider-Man. Ronnie Corbett. Love that guy. You ever see the two Ronnies?
I've heard about it, yeah.
Yeah. One of them wears both of them wear glasses? I forget. One's tall, one's short. Gundel Whittlebaum. You're a gentleman, sir. The greatest Bond show ever. You are both gems. Well, thank you for coming back. Appreciate it. Canadian Spider-Man, dealing with geography, says, wait a minute. The distance from London to Berlin isn't even 1,000 kilometers. Of course you could taxi. It's like Vancouver to Calgary, but shorter. Isn't there like a body of water?
You could take the tunnel.
Not in 1967.
Oh, okay.
I guess you'd have to take a ferry.
Yeah, you can do that.
Tim's Talk. Hello
Hey,
there. Hey, what's going on, man? Thank you for stopping by and saying hello. Canadian Spider-Man says, Are You Being Served was pretty funny and not woke. Now that is how you do it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, it is. That was a great series.
All right.
Have you seen it, Scott?
Like in passing.
No, it's a great series, though. British know how to do humor.
Well, yeah, but I'm more like Faulty Towers, or like for that era, Faulty Towers would be the thing. I don't have any backups on that though. Like, because Monty Python is sketch. I don't know. It's not until Spaced that I really got into it, because all my looking back has been Doctor Who and James Bond. I'm trying to think what else I got. Not much. I am a poor Anglophile. And then Cam's Crash Courses says, I give it a 4 on a parody movie scale. Yeah. Okay.
Like 4 out of 10 or 4 out of 5, or what are we talking here?
4 out of 3. This is the best parody movie that came out in 1967. All right.
It's 4 out of 3 because it's on the metric system.
Exactly. With cheese. So that'll do it, I think. Do you have anything else you want to?
No, I think that about covers it.
Well, okay. So then we've done. So next week we'll do Barry Nelson, 1954.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I suppose to anyone who is in the chat or anyone who's watching afterwards, it is available for free on YouTube if you'd like to watch along and participate in the commentary as we go. We'll be talking again next week.
That is another interesting idea we could do.
I don't know how to work that. We'd have to talk to Steve.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure something out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll just do a regular recap show.
I wonder if it's. Yeah, we could. Let's figure it out. We got a weekend between then and here.
Yeah, and if it's in the public domain, we wouldn't have to worry about the audio or anything getting picked up by our microphones, so that could be fun.
It could be
Plus,
fun.
it is pretty short, so.
It's only an hour, less than an hour, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it'll be the full hour if you get the cigarette ads. So, thank you, Cam. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Cam.
And so,
and
all right. Much like, you know what? This is the first time that it didn't say James Bond will return.
You're right, because he won't, because it was a standalone and he dies in the end.
Well, okay. Half of that is applicable to the last, or the next time James Bond dies. Anyway, so I suppose whether or not it was in this James Bond movie, James Bond will return, as will Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns.
Yes, it will.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.